welcome back. Painfully Honest Tech Podcast, the podcast so honest it hurts. We are back again. My friend Adam is here from the Tech Odyssey, and my name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL, and I have a little YouTube channel that you're probably watching this on right now called Painfully Honest Tech. And yes, I have joined the future cult, and I'm just going to do everything with this thing on my face. And I figured this would be a good way to kind of talk about it. You know, if you're brand new here and you wanna listen to us ramble on about tech related things, then please do follow us in one way or the other. Subscribe to my channel. Go over and subscribe to Adam's channel. We do take donations through the Salvation Army, and
yes, I'm trying to get some new clothes right now.
Yeah, so yeah, that's. But I've got this very expensive. Look, I had to. It was painful to buy this thing, and I realized after a week of like not buying it, that the only reason I wasn't buying it was because it was super expensive, and I just didn't want to be disappointed. I didn't want to be disappointed by the super expensive thing. And
so now that you've bought the super expensive thing, are you disappointed?
No, I am not, actually. I mean, I think some of the things that we've said about it still hold true. There's still a lot of growth potential. There's still a lot of things that it doesn't do as well as maybe it should or could to start with, but it is much better than I thought it would be in some ways. I was at CES a couple of weeks ago, and I had a chance to go over to the Venetian and see the Leifin Wave oscillating toothbrush, a brand new toothbrush from the folks over at Leifin. Leifin went viral not long ago with their high-speed hair dryer, and now they're back at it with this Wave toothbrush. It's the first brush that doesn't only vibrate, but it also oscillates at 60 degrees. It gives you 3 times the brushing power. It has an app for customization, and you get that dual action of vibration and oscillation. Each one offers extraordinary craftsmanship, as well as an ergonomic design that gives you a 45-degree angle at the base. Go over to their website, link down in the description below, and until February 16th, you can enter to win a Leifin Wave for yourself. And it is, there's no super huge downsides. Like, the biggest downside I had when I bought it, because I didn't pre-order, they didn't have like my prescription lenses ready for me to take home with the Vision Pro.
Yeah, that was kind of sucky. I remember you were telling me about that, and I was like, man, that sucks, because you went and bought it, and then you got it sitting at home, and you're like, well, I don't have contacts, and I didn't get these lenses, so I can't use this thing that I bought.
Yeah, so, and it said the lenses would take 7 to 10 days to show up. So I was like, oh man, I have to sit here for a week and a half not wearing the Vision Pro. And I had just gone to the eye doctor anyway and got a new prescription, got an eye exam, the whole thing. So I actually was able to get an appointment and go back the next day and get fitted for contacts, because I hadn't tried contacts in, I don't know, 20 plus years. So I was just like, well, let's see what it's all about. And so I got a trial pair of contacts, and I was able to like get in and set it up. But then yesterday, my lenses appeared. They showed up
pretty quick.
Yeah. And the lens thing is pretty impressive. So you get them from Zeiss, and so you upload your prescription. You like take a screenshot of it, or you take a shot of the page, and you upload it when you order your Vision Pro, and then it shows up, and they're magnetic. So you just drop them in, and they automatically drop into place. There's no fiddling with anything. They just automatically go to where they're supposed to go, and then they pair with the device.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and so you have to like redo the whole rigmarole setup thing. But I wearing it with contacts was okay, but this is actually a much better experience. I'll say that. And the way that I'm like doing this right now is, so this is like not really see-through. I haven't set up my persona yet, so my eyes aren't showing through. Yeah. But this is just there's like lenses inside, and there's cameras all around this area. And so I can see my screen. Now, I could theoretically project my screen in the Vision Pro. It would shut
Mhm.
down the screen that I'm looking at right now and just project my screen as big as I wanted it right in front of my face. The only thing that I worry about is I don't know how that would play with the recording process. And
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to like, I'll give it a try and see how it goes. But I
because
did
you're
notice,
recording with the Mac using the Ecamm, so like you don't want to cross the
yeah,
streams with the video.
yeah. So it was, I did like have it projected for a little while and I just noticed that on the screen, my face was freezing a little bit. And I don't know if it was just pass through from the thing and it was okay in the computer or not. But I've watched a bunch of videos. Max Tech did a video where he worked for like 9 hours with this thing on his face.
That's
Um,
crazy. That's a long time.
yeah, yeah.
So
And go ahead.
I have two questions. One, how's the weight? Because I was concerned about that. And two, like how's the fatigue after wearing it for a couple hours?
Uh, the weight is not an issue in my experience. Even with I've just got like the
You get the
better
solo strap.
looking solo band going here, and it cinches on pretty easily and tightens up pretty nicely,
Hmm.
and it kind of grabs not like the very back of your head, but sort of like part of your head where it starts to slope down.
Hmm.
So it's and
Like a natural kind of pocket there.
yeah, and so it grabs that and it's like totally stuck to my head.
Yeah, it
Um,
seems like it's pretty secure.
yeah, it's not moving around. I mean, I have my headphones on so uh, I can hear what's coming through the audio from the computer. But
So is there ample room around your ears to easily accommodate like headphones or earphones or whatever?
um, there's room, ample. I don't know. I saw some people trying to wear their AirPods Max, and that seems to me like a one of the problems with the AirPods Max to me is the fact that they're not shaped like normal headphones. So they're
Yeah,
kind of
they're
squared
kind of
off.
large and boxy. Yeah.
And it looked like people were having the AirPods over top of the band. Now, this is going over top of the band,
Hmm.
but these aren't noise canceling headphones, so that seal isn't as big a deal.
Yeah.
But the AirPods themselves are pretty heavy, and some people that I've seen have said like, "Oh, I wore the AirPods and it like got really really heavy, and I had to take them off." But you can pair your AirPods Pro or any Bluetooth headphone to these things as well. The
Well, they
speakers that
should
are
work.
on
They
it,
should work with handoff, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it would. Um, the speakers that are on here, like this is one right here. They just generally shoot down toward your ears, and they're not
Oh,
bad. They're not bad at all.
oh,
Just for
I didn't realize it had built-in speakers. I thought you had
yeah,
to use earbuds.
no, it has two built-in speakers, one over here, and then the speaker itself is kind of along the edge here, pointing toward your ears.
Okay.
And it gives you kind of a spatial audio deal and has decent sound. Like I listened to a little bit of music with it, and it wasn't the best music listening experience, but for general stuff, it was fine. Um, they're full sounding, but the one problem with using the headphones is that everybody around you would
And
have
here
to
too.
hear what you were hearing. It wouldn't be super
Well, I'm
loud, but
sure it's relatively beamforming to where it goes relatively towards your ears, so it's not like directly broadcasting the world, but people closer will still hear it.
yeah, I wouldn't want to watch porn on an airplane though with just the headphones without headphones on.
Yeah.
That would be
I usually watch it without headphones on, but that's just how I roll.
no, like somebody close to you would be able to hear what's going on. I don't think it would be super loud, but they would be able to hear it. Um, so there are several demos in here of different stuff, and it kind of takes as you set it up, it takes you through the demos. And
Hmm.
there are some things that I was not prepared for. Like they have this hiking experience that there's a woman hiking and rock climbing and stuff in front of you, and Oh my God. It
She doesn't fall
literally,
and die, does she?
no, but she is walking at one point, walking across like a rope line and toward you. And it's like, I can't explain the experience because I've worn VR headsets and I've seen 3D videos before and stuff, some 3D movies.
Hmm.
And this is like all of a sudden I'm like in the space with the person. And the audio is the spatial audio is I think a big part of it because it really like you can hear stuff from behind you, you can hear stuff
Makes you feel like you're in the environment.
yeah, literally like you can look down and see the ground and you can turn your head and see like what's over to the right. So it's like you're inside a 3D or like a 360 video.
That would be interesting. You remember there was this social media, like a short video going around a while ago where this guy, I guess, had put on one of the headsets. You see him, he's like crawling on the ground because he thinks he's on this thing, he's going to fall off.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember the first time I put a VR headset on my wife. Some people are okay and like VR is not like a big deal to them, but my wife was just like like every, and this was just like the Oculus Rift S was what it made it. That might have been the Oculus Rift actually. So this was a while ago, and
Remember when they used to have the Oculus Rift demos at Best Buy, and they would
yeah,
have like a dedicated Oculus person there, and you could
yeah,
play the games.
yeah. This like so that immersive thing. They had the hiking thing. They had Alicia Keys in the studio rehearsing with her band, and she's like standing like your vantage point is like at the side of the piano right by the piano bench, and she's like standing right there, and then she walks toward you, and then like I turned my head because it was uncomfortable, like I didn't want to be that close to Alicia Keys. I turned my head and like there's the backup singers are over on the side, and you turn over here and there's some other people going on, and it is totally immersive.
Hmm.
And as much as I heard about and experienced similar things in my time on this planet, I did not expect that. So that's been the craziest thing. And then they have some 3D stuff, like they have a dinosaur app where the dinosaur like walks out of the frame and into
Yeah, I saw that.
into
I
the
saw that
space.
demo briefly online.
Yeah. The only thing you don't get online is you don't get that sense of space. You don't like it feels like you're in the
Well, I mean,
space.
it's going to be just kind of like a 3D movie. I mean, you can see whatever you want on the TV, but if you're not like watching the 3D movie, you're not experiencing Jaws
Yeah.
pop out of the screen. You know?
Yeah, it's I think this will probably cause a resurgence of 3D content for the Vision Pro because yeah, I that was the most impressive thing. There's also like a DJ app that you can
Mm.
download,
So you can
and
like work the turntables and stuff.
yeah, you can get on the you can get on the steel wheels and just rock it. Um, but you can connect it to your Apple Music account. And so,
Oh,
like, you have
that's
everything in
neat.
Apple Music to choose from, and you just choose one song for the left turntable and one song for the right turntable, and then you can like flip between them, and you can put effects on. And I did that for like
All
15 or
right,
20
that's pretty
minutes.
cool.
Yeah, and you can get an immersive environment where it's like you're in a laser tunnel, and you got the decks in front of you. There's definitely tons of potential, and just mirroring my Mac screen and being able to make so one of the things that I was really one of the things that I thought was really kind of a downside is that you can't have multiple screens from one computer, right? You just
Yeah, yeah, we talked
you
about that. That's kind of dumb.
but the fact that you can it pops out and then you can resize it and make it whatever size you want
Hmm.
is is
Kind of makes up for it a little bit.
it kind of makes up for it, yeah, because then you really do get the visual the visual acuity, like if you're trying to edit a video or something like that, um, you you can get really tight in there. Um, the pass through that I'm like how I'm seeing the screen now and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The cameras are pretty good, but it's clear that I've heard people describe it as like you're watching 720p video, and it can get kind of blurry. There's like motion blur if you turn your head like this. But
Well, that
part of
sounds
the
better than the Oculus.
yeah,
I was trying out my son's Quest 3 the other day, and when you have it on that pass through video where you can like see your surroundings and
yeah,
everything, it was like 360p. I mean, it's not not
yeah,
good. So
yeah.
720p sounds like still a pretty good improvement over that.
Like I can read everything that's on my screen right now, and it's not super crisp, but it's not being broadcast by the Vision Pro into like the Vision Pro space. It's
Yeah,
like
you're reading it through the glasses.
yeah, I'm reading through the screen, um, through the cameras. That is. So, I haven't had a ton of time to really like sit with it and play around a lot, but I can say that there is definitely a wow factor to it. Um, and if they keep doing what they're doing with and improve and just continue to iterate on that wow factor and get things better and better, this is this is a real thing. Like
So I think the biggest concern that we had last week when we were talking was okay, we think that down the road it'll be worth it. And we think that, okay, maybe 6 months down the road, they get some more apps, they develop, they do some more things. It'll be a more worthwhile purchase for somebody who's interested in it.
right,
So, as a like day 2 adopter, day 3, whatever,
right.
first week of buying this, does it feel like it meets your expectations that you had leading up to it? And do you think that it's worth to buy for somebody who's really into something like this?
I mean, if you're a tech enthusiast and you love Apple and 35, well, I mean, with tax and the lenses, I walked out of the Apple store spending 3,900 and change, which isn't cheap for sure. That's like 6% sales tax here in Iowa, I think it is.
Mm.
So worth it is a hard thing to say. I mean, it's not going to it's not going to replace the tools that you already have, right?
Mhm.
But it can augment some of those tools. It is like a fun entertainment device, and I think I've barely scratched the surface of doing that really. Um, I don't I would never want to spend somebody else's $3,900, but I'm on board for let's see how this thing develops from here, because it's clearly the next step in how we engage with the world, right? This spatial computing where the stuff that you're using is like in a non-existent space in front of your eyeballs, right?
Mhm.
And you can take. So I saw Joanna Stern in her video. She was cooking with it on,
Hmm.
and
Dangerous.
well, actually, now that I've used it, I could see that you could do it. Again, like I feel like I'm getting a little eye strain just trying to focus my eyes through, like, and seeing this sort of more blurry representation of what's going on. But she brought up 2 different timers and put them over top of the pots that she was cooking on, and so but the timers had different countdowns on them, and they stayed there. So when she's wearing this and she turns to that, she's just seeing like how much more time is left with these things kind of hovering above the pots that she's put them over.
That's kind
And
of neat. Virtually.
so yeah, so you can wear this thing and have your computer screen right in front of you, but you could have like 10 other things going on around you, and things will stay where you put them. So like if you put your computer screen in front of your desk, like if one thing that I could do is take this screen off of my desk
Mhm.
and just use my Mac Mini as the hub of my Vision Pro, right?
Hmm.
And so I think that that's going to be a really interesting use case. Um, just with being able to resize the window, and once you can get more windows going, uh, the thing about the working on the computer, like you have your messages app open, your email app open, you have your browser, all of these other things, and they exist sort of like on top of each other in a two-dimensional space.
Hmm.
But with Vision Pro, you don't have to do that. Like you could have your main window that you're working on right in front of you, and then everything else like pushed off to the sides, and you just grab it and pull it in whenever you want to change whatever or interact with whatever that is.
Hmm.
So there is definitely, I think Casey Neistat in his video put it really well. Like as soon as you put it on, as soon as I put it on, I got that like, oh, I get it. This is what this is this is the next thing. Even if it's just rudimentary compared to what it will be in 10 years,
Hmm.
like this is definitely the paradigm shifter that I hoped and thought it would be. Should you go out and buy one? I mean, I don't know. No, I I'm glad that I have it, but it was really hard for me to spend the money. And I'm not rich. Definitely brought up some spending anxiety that hasn't, like buyer's remorse is still hanging around, even though I'm enjoying the experience. So
Well,
I
I
would,
think that's pretty normal. Even if like me sitting here, I mean, yeah, I could go buy one. I tried to buy one. Apple didn't want my money, so I've kind
they'll
of
take
lost
it
interest
eventually.
in it. Yeah, I've lost interest in it over the last couple of days. Like maybe if I'm sitting around this weekend, I'll go try and buy it again. But I was really like the day one it came out. I was like, man, this is really cool. And then they kind of ruined the experience for me because I went and I bought it. They took my money online, and then they said that they didn't take my money, but my bank was like, it took my money. They're like, well, it's not showing the
Yeah,
order is complete, so we can't do anything for you. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll cancel my order and get my money back and try it again.
yeah,
So I just have not gone back. Like I'll go into the store this time. I don't trust their stupid website. But the whole
yeah,
thing with the like even me being able to go buy it, if I were to go buy it and bring it home, I would. The cool factor is there surely, but I would have the same thoughts too. Like, man, is this really worth $4,000? Like as I'm sitting there playing with it, it would gnaw at my conscience until the return period went away.
yeah. I think if I put it on and the visual experience wasn't like super tight and like so the pass through cameras aren't awesome,
Hmm.
but the visual experience that you get when you watch a movie or when your like apps pop up in front of you, that's like super crisp. And
Hmm.
if I think if it didn't have that level of verisimilitude where it looks like your iPad, but the icons are just floating in space,
Hmm.
I think if it didn't have that like totally nailed down so it looked crisp and realistic, then it would have been a disappointing experience. And
Well, both of the both.
that's what's happened with a lot of other VR headsets that I've used is that it doesn't like it's almost there, but it still doesn't like look real enough to have that like, oh, I'm in a different space kind of
Yeah.
feeling. What were you gonna say? Sorry, I heard something behind me.
Um, yeah. So what I was saying, I was like, well, if it were $2,000, I really wouldn't have that big of a headache over it because a lot of people don't understand that there's an M2 chip inside of there. I mean, it's basically like
Right.
a MacBook Pro level computer built into this thing.
It's a
So
Mac Mini on my
innately,
face
yeah,
with
so
a bit.
innately that's going to drive some costs up. Like it's never going to be $1,000. Like maybe
Right.
15 years from now it'll be $1,000, but this is not going to be something that's particularly affordable for most folks anytime in the near future. So, but that's what we get with these generation one like big shift
Right.
changes in technology. Somebody had to have the money to put into it to absorb these costs, and make it happen to get us here. Basically, they just used a cheat code and pushed us ahead probably 7 to 10 years.
Yeah. The thing that
You got to pay for it.
Looking back now, when they put LiDAR cameras on the iPad and on the iPhone and all this other stuff, and they were showing like 3-dimensional models of games and those kinds of things, I think my reaction was similar to what a lot of other people's reaction was, is like, well, what's the real world use of that right now? Like, I can't play that game that you're showing me. So I think that Apple's been working on this for a lot longer than we probably.
I would say probably 7 or 8 years.
At least. Yeah. I mean, because I think I remember seeing those kinds of demos for LiDAR cameras and stuff on iPads and iPhones like back in 2017 or 2017, probably 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a feeling that was like part of their beta test, putting those LiDAR cameras on these devices and then gathering data from people's use of it. I'm going to take this off now and
all right, go for it.
Ruin the whole thing, but it's not super uncomfortable, even now. Like, so I take it off my face, and it was on there pretty tight. But I take it off my face, grab my headphones, grab my glasses. The real world is much crisper.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I think that once we're able to have the same experience that I'm having right now, like sitting here at the computer, but inside the goggles,
the digital world.
Yeah, it's not just like replacing the screen. It's sort of bringing up
a new experience.
Yeah, bringing up parts of the experience that weren't possible before, right? And to me, that's the exciting thing about tech. So I have enjoyed it over these first couple of days. I can't claim to have like gone through everything and know everything about it, but I think as a proof of, well, it's more than a proof of concept, right? I think it's more than beta testing at this point. Definitely version 2 and 3 will be leaps and bounds better than this. But when you talk about tech like this, you're really paying you're paying that money for being one of the first to have the experience.
You're paying for that front row ticket, that front row seat.
Yeah, and so whether or not it's worth it is always going to be a different question for each person. But for me, I'm glad that I like decided. Oops. I'm glad that I decided to accidentally hit my trackpad and make us all go away. I'm glad that I decided to pull the trigger and buy it. Now I just have to figure out how to like fill the hole that I made in the credit card sooner than later, because that was like nobody. I certainly don't typically have like $3,900 just loose in my bank account. So
if I do, I spend it.
Yeah, that's the problem. And the thing is, like, I've spent $3,500 on a guitar before, and yes, that's an extravagant amount of money to pay for a guitar. It's a very nice guitar, but it's still like got 6 strings on it and makes it sound like every other guitar with 6 strings on it, and so the amount of money it's always relative. Like, would you spend $3,500 on a used car? I don't know. That would be like not a great used car.
No, I mean, I have a Toyota Supra that I drive around, and like most people would never want to buy one of those or spend that much money on a car. I like sports cars. I always have been driving them for a long time, but it's like an enthusiast sports car. I mean, this is kind of like an enthusiast headset for folks right now. It's not something that everybody is going to go buy. It's not something that's in everybody's price range, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's like I don't knock somebody for driving like an E-Class Mercedes or whatever. I don't say, man, you're stupid because you bought that. It's just if somebody has the money and they want to buy it and enjoy it, then they go for it. Just
Yeah.
for me, I just have not 100% recommitted myself to that purchase price yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand. I can understand that. Especially if like, so our job is to make content about tech, right? And that was one of the comments that I got on the few videos that I made, kind of explaining what my trepidations were about the product. People were like, well, you're a tech YouTuber, you got 200,000 subscribers, like, you know, and you should like go get the thing and tell us about it. And I guess that's a valid thing to say, right? I mean,
well, I mean, it is and it isn't, because I think there's a gross misunderstanding of how much money people who make YouTube videos actually make. So
yeah.
just because you have 200,000 subscribers doesn't mean that you make like $15,000 a month and you can just go buy whatever you want.
Now, if each one of my subscribers became a member for $1 a month, that would be, I would be rich.
You would be rich.
I
think I have like 25 members.
I will say
and
that
I value them dearly.
I have let my subscribers down in terms of like additional content that I promise to provide, but it's hard. I mean, when you're a one-man show or a one-woman show and you're working to create the content, it's really hard to figure out like what can I actually reliably deliver to my members. And I know some people who do like a weekly live stream that's only for members. Maybe that's something that's low hanging fruit, right? That's something that you can be like, oh, okay. I just go live for an hour and it doesn't take a ton of prep. So anyway, members, I'm thinking, but imagine if like 20,000 of my subscribers, 10%.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
You'd be
then
rich.
I'd be able to buy whatever anybody wanted.
Yeah, you could buy an Apple Vision Pro and give it away.
I could. Maybe if I get, maybe I will.
The road to 20,000 members.
Members. Yeah. I mean, God, because like the power of the people is anyway. Next thing we got to talk about is this guy, the Samsung Galaxy S24 in the Ultra style. I have been frustrated by my experience so far.
I can imagine.
Because, well, when I first set it up, for reasons that nobody can figure, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been figuring out cell phone issues and fixing whatever problems there were. And I'm not blaming Samsung or anything like that. I mean, I think that some of these experience-breaking bugs can happen in different ways more often in Android in general, just because there are so many different companies making phones that have all the same operating system, right?
Uh-huh.
So I couldn't get it to like put in passwords. It's just like it wouldn't.
Yeah, you were telling me that.
And then my Samsung Pass that's supposed to have all my passwords, it just had the one that I had put in, and I was just like, I don't know.
Honest, I don't really use Samsung Pass because it's kind of annoying because it always wants me to type my password in to save new passwords. So I just rely on Google Chrome, keep like saving my browser input.
Yeah.
So I just use Chrome for everything. And because I do that on the desktop, it always pops up so I can just log in with it anyway. So that's kind of like how that helps me out. And unless it's for certain apps. And then certain apps, I'm like, I can't remember my password.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a password pattern that I use to come up with new passwords that allows me to sort of like come up with new passwords that are strong passwords that are then like me knowing the equation that I use to create them, then allows me to like guess if I forget, and I can usually get in. But now they've made it a lot easier to just redo your password. But passwords, I mean, it's amazing to me that we haven't gone beyond passwords at this point. The Vision Pro will just like look at your eyes and unlock. So
this is different than like, it's not like the Oculus where anybody can just pick it up and start playing with it. If I were to come over to your house and hit you in the head with the lead pipe and put on your Apple Vision Pro, it would be like, you don't have the magic eyes.
Well, if you knew the password, you could get in. Like if it didn't read your eyes, if it couldn't like identify you that way, then you could put in the password by it's like, you gotta.
How is that typing experience, by the way?
I've only used the virtual keyboard a couple of times, and you have to really figure out like what's going to register as a button press, and you really have to like press into it more than I thought you would. But some people have said they've gotten more used to it. So I don't know, but like it took a while. When I first set it up, I couldn't read or see really anything when I set it up, but I could see enough that I could.
Hopefully, you didn't set up the password then.
No. Well, I knew what the pattern. I know what my pattern is, so then I knew what I'd done. But it just was really weird to do the pinching. Because I just keep thinking of this SCTV this SCTV sketch where you put somebody's head in between your fingers and say, "I'm crushing you. I'm crushing you." Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, the interface takes a while to get used to, but then it becomes pretty natural, and you have to figure out like how to move your eyes. That makes it sound more difficult than it is. Like you have to figure out like you're not moving your head. You're not moving your head. You're moving your eyes, but you're just moving your eyes in kind of a natural way. You're just like looking. If you look straight ahead, the thing that's straight ahead of you will be selected, and if you look to the left or the right.
So do your eyes get tired looking around like this to select all the letters?
It's not quite that dramatic when you're doing it, but you have to. But there's an adjustment period to figure out what's going to register as a highlight. So if you want to get the app, but with your fingers, you can like single tap in like things on the keyboard. The keyboard, I guess, will get better, but you can also use a physical keyboard if you can.
You can connect a Bluetooth keyboard.
Yeah. So the one thing that that dawned on me as I was putting on headphones was I kind of wish that there was a headphone jack.
Yeah, so I saw your tweet about that.
Because then it opens you up to like being able to use better quality IEMs, and you can, then there's a market for companies that are going to make short cabled headphones for Vision Pro or whatever. I just think ultimately it's a better experience, and you don't have to worry about like, well, the Vision Pro battery's going to die, and then my AirPods battery. So, and you don't have to worry about the Bluetooth experience maybe letting you down. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's going to be good. And I will say that the Samsung Galaxy S24 is the best Galaxy S series phone they've ever made. It's also the best Galaxy Note they've ever made.
I've been enjoying mine, but there's been a lot of back and forth. I've had to make a couple of videos because some folks are saying the screen is less vibrant, it's not as vivid. And I'm like, okay, yes, it's not 100% as vivid, but like I didn't even notice the difference. And I've had the S23, the S22, the S21, the S20, the S10. I've had every Samsung Galaxy phone since the S3.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I had even the S2. So if it doesn't bother me, I don't see how it's bothering other people so much. But I get it. Some people expect there to be a more vivid, like larger than life blues and greens and contrast. Like I get it. Samsung is known for having a super oversaturated screen that doesn't look realistic. Now that they've swung the pendulum back a little bit, though, they've tried to make it look more realistic. It looks more like an iPhone screen, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. The problem is when you go in and try and adjust it, you just can't really make it even that normally, like make it the level of vibrancy and saturation that you would normally appreciate on a Samsung. Even though we're talking very minuscule, like I don't really notice that much of a difference. But having used this phone for 2 weeks now, I really don't notice any difference at this point, and I've really enjoyed using the phone.
I can say this, like every time I go from the iPhone to an Android phone, um, the blue spectrum is always more intense on
Mhm.
an Android phone.
Yeah.
And so like, but my eyes adjust to it. And when I heard people saying that, the screen on this phone wasn't as vibrant, I actually went into the settings and because they have like the vivid and the natural that you can choose.
Mhm.
And here's the weird thing. This is the reason why I think it might actually be like some kind of software glitch. Because I would go back and forth between
You can't really tell
vivid
much
and
difference.
natural, and it didn't change. It just didn't. It didn't make
So
any change at all.
it does, but the problem is with that one image, it doesn't look like it. If you swipe to the other two images, because there's three different test images there,
Okay. Yeah.
if the other two images, if you adjust it, it changes. You can tell
Yeah.
the change. But with that first image, you can't. Like you
Yeah.
basically can't tell the difference at all.
I just remember having done it on previous phones, and the difference was pretty stark. So
It was. But the thing is Samsung has said, look, it's not broken, it's not defective. This is how we designed the screen this time for a more natural look. So I'm sure they'll be addressing this. I think they've already said that they're going to do something to address it, to make it where you can make it more vivid. But no, it's not. People are like, oh, it's broken, it's trash, and this pisses me off to no end. People are like, oh, it's trash. No, it's not trash. Like just
yeah,
because like the color hue is off slightly compared to what you would find ideal doesn't mean that this really expensive screen that looks beautiful is trash.
yeah,
Like everybody's like every time somebody doesn't like something now, like one small little subjective thing, oh the
yeah.
phone's trash, it's a piece of trash, it's garbage. Like, would you shut up, please?
Well, I mean, 'tis the season for the sort of unfounded hot take, right? This is like we got phones coming out, we got Vision Pro coming out, and everybody's guilty of this, I guess, a little bit from one moment to the next. But like it's it's boring to be like this phone's just as good as the last one, but a little bit better. you know?
Yeah. Here's something I want to show you. So when you go into screen mode,
Yeah,
and this is the little windmill, little like
yeah,
thingy that you like blow, and I can't remember what it's called, and it spins around. Anyway, so when you look at this first image, when you change it from natural to vivid, there's basically zero change.
right.
Like you can't tell. It's just a poor image for them to use this for. But if you go to the next image and you change it from natural to vivid, you can actually tell a difference. It looks
Okay.
more warm and more cool. And then if you swipe to the next one, this Aurora Borealis picture, you can tell a difference when you adjust it. So I think half of the problem is that first image is giving people a false expectation of what's actually happening because it's really. I looked at it, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So then I swiped to the other ones. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can tell a little bit of a difference now.
Yeah.
Like it looks more warm or it looks more cool. So, but yeah, there was somebody on Twitter yesterday saying, oh, the I'm going back. I'm going back to the Pixel. The cameras on the S24 Ultra are trash. I'm like, you can't even believe this yourself. Like I know you
Yeah.
don't believe that you're just saying this because you want clicks. The cameras are actually quite good. Like just because you prefer the way that the Pixel images look doesn't mean that the images on the S24 Ultra are crap or trash or garbage. And then just to
Yeah.
make such a blanket statement like, "Oh my gosh, the photos on this camera are so horrible, I'm switching back." Like, okay,
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of at the point with smartphone cameras, at least like with the big three. Well, I guess you could probably even include uh, OnePlus in this category now, and Oppo or Oppo or however you want to pronounce it.
I think it's
since they're
Oppo,
the same
but I
thing.
call them Oppo because I'm in America.
Yeah. Now that they've got those Hasselblad, they've got the Hasselblad thing going on, and like the photos from the OnePlus devices that I've taken in the past like 6 months have been super impressive.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, you know, if you're buying the S24 Ultra or the iPhone or a OnePlus phone or the Pixel or anything else, I mean, at this point it's about features maybe. And
Well, at the end
even
of the
then,
day, when you look at the iPhone, you look at the Samsung phones, you look at the Pixel phones, you look at the OnePlus phones, all these different phones, their cameras are all so good now. But here's the thing that people don't understand. Every camera is different. Every
yeah,
lens is different. Every sensor is different. And the way that these companies go about their computational photography, their color algorithms, everything is different. So
yeah,
you're never going to take a photo with iPhone 15 Pro Max, S24 Ultra, and OnePlus 12, and they look identical. They're all going to have their own little take on things. So some people just get used to the way that a certain camera style looks. Like
yeah,
a Google photo, you can sometimes pick it out of the crowd just because of the way they do the processing and the
right.
way that they look. You could historically pick out a Samsung one because they look more vibrant and the colors pop a little bit more. So a lot of it comes down to individual taste. And it's not even necessarily that there's a lot going on that's bad. Like it's not taking a bad image. I mean, objectively, you can look at something and say this is a bad image.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the problems people are finding with these phones now are very subjective.
Yeah. And I think that this is one reason that I've never really done camera comparisons on in my videos, and
I
I've
don't do
never and I don't really like them to begin with, because even if you have two cameras set up side by side taking what would ostensibly be the same picture, like there are going to be enough differences between what one sensor picks up and what the other sensor picks up that it's not going to be the same, right? So it's really, and that's not a realistic test in and of itself, because
I guess
who's
it
ever
makes
going to walk around with like two smartphones on a stick, right?
I guess it makes people feel better, or I some sense of superiority. I don't know what it is, but I don't ever do them either because one, what I see and what you see, it could be two different things. For instance, I've done this in the past. I did it, I think, with the S23 Ultra and the OnePlus 11, and I thought this photo was just gorgeous. Like I
Yeah,
thought it was a great photo. And then someone's like, "This photo sucks." I'm like,
yeah,
"All right." And then you got five other people saying, "Oh, this photo is amazing." So it's like there's so much subjectivity in it. And then you get some
yeah.
guy who thinks he's a homemade National Geographic explorer, and he's like, "Oh, this photo looks so terrible." I'm like, "Looks pretty good to me."
Yeah, the one thing that I've noticed in some of the stuff that I've seen come across social media, and I think, and maybe this is a valid comparison, maybe not, but I've seen some photos where the computational photography is like it's in a darker environment, and the computational photography, like the algorithm is doing some lightening, brightening, that kind of thing. And I have noticed that in one case, like if it's a S24 Ultra versus iPhone or whatever, I've noticed a trend that the iPhone generally looks more natural but not as bright, and the S24 Ultra might look like it has more light in it.
It has a more artificial nightlife experience kind of photo.
Yeah,
I don't like that. I don't like when you get basically you're applying daytime brightness to a nighttime photo. Like this isn't realistic. This isn't a photo that I took.
yeah,
It's artificially creating light and brightening up an image that otherwise you would never ever see. I like, to me, low light photo taking should just take the best picture of what I'm looking at the time, so that way, like if I want to look at it later,
yeah.
it, like a memory, not, oh yeah, there was five of us out at the sitting on the patio bar, and now it looks like it's daytime and it's 2 a.m.
And 5 years from now, when your Photos app pops it up as a memory for you, like of the day that you spent or whatever, there is no way in hell that anybody will look 5 years from now at an image that they took of a day that they spent doing whatever they were doing, and and be like, Oh, geez. I wish I had had the iPhone instead. Like, like you're just not going to do that because this is what happens. And so when with headphones, there's always and speakers, there's always this thing like, oh, you got to break them in. Uh, like like the speaker or the headphone needs a period of time to like loosen up,
Yeah,
and then it will reverberate more. And it's always
properly.
been this big, like debate. Is it real?
Oh yeah,
And
some people are like, no, just play them. Some people are like, no, you need the 50 hours. Blah 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 blah.
yeah, and for me, like I don't think that it's. I think maybe if anything, it's halfway between one and the other. Maybe the speakers need a little bit of time to loosen up. Maybe they need, maybe the headphones need a little bit of time. But I think the difference that you hear from hour 1 to hour 10 is how your ears have adjusted to the sound signature that speaker or headphone produces more than the speaker has physically changed in any way, right? That's what I assume. And it seems like all the years that I've dealt with this, that that's what the that's what's going on, right?
Mhm.
You're more acclimated to the difference. And I think it's the same thing with photos. Like if you sit there and pixel peep and pick apart all the photos that you take, compare it to other phones or other cameras or other this, that, or the other thing, like there's not really any there's not really any objective value in that at all.
There's not, but the other thing is photos just aren't special anymore. Photos used to be all right. Somebody bring a camera. We want to capture this moment. We want to remember this time we were together. We want to remember this experience.
Yeah.
And now people take 50, 60 sinking photos a day. I mean, somebody could just sit there and take selfie after selfie after selfie, or selfie here, selfie there, selfie here, selfie there. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many photos that people take nowadays that like it's not a moment, it's not a memory, it's an instant for social media. So
Yeah.
it's like nobody. Yes, there's the rare occasion where okay, you still want to capture a moment in time, but so often now it's just like people are taking photos to share to for an algorithm push.
Well, it's interesting. Like I just think that our relationship with photos has changed. Social media has changed our relationship with photos. The fact that we have a camera in our pocket at all times has changed our relationship with photos. It used to be you would go to a family gathering or you would go on
You're the
vacation
guy
or
stuck with the camera.
and like you don't have an easy way to capture everybody doing the thing, right? So everybody gathers and you take the family photo or whatever it is, and that becomes an artifact, right? But
Mhm.
photos now are not artifacts. It's more almost journalistic, right? You're documenting, and so they become not really artifacts of experiences as much as they are just documents of moments in time, uh, and there are just more of them. Like
Mhm.
so, my mom passed away a couple of months ago, and one thing that I realized is that so I grew up, and you grew up in the era where half of my life was lived without smartphone cameras.
Yeah, we had
So
photo books.
half of my life, like my relatives, my family, all those pictures are captured and kept in photo albums,
Mhm.
and I I realized like I have very few pictures of my mom.
Yeah, I came to that same realization here, about over the last month because my mom passed away a month ago, and I was like, I have, like, no pictures.
Yeah.
Like, even though I always have a phone, but, I mean, I thought about that to some extent, before she passed, but I was like, I almost felt morbid in wanting to take a picture because I didn't wanna be like, "Hey, mom, take a picture so I can remember you."
Yeah.
Like, I just
Yeah.
felt so I just didn't wanna do that, which, I mean, I don't know. It's a different discussion to have, but, yeah, just really even though we spend a lot of time together, it's not like maybe it's a generational thing. Like we just didn't take photos. Like me and my mom never. I don't think I have a selfie ever of me and my mom.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's different probably for you and I being of a different generation, right? Whereas like somebody my daughter's age, or your kid's age would be more likely to have more photos, like more candid photos, selfies, that kind of thing with their mom or dad.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that for those of us who are in the Generation X, um, our relationship with photos had to change over a period of time, right? Because
Yeah.
we didn't necessarily. It was like I said, it was artifact versus document,
Hmm.
and so you created an artifact of a moment, whereas like now it's all documentation,
Hmm.
and so for us, I don't know if I've ever fully made the transition from being like a photo is an artifact, a photo is like a distillation of a thing as opposed to a documentation of that's
I don't
more.
know. I think I have both. And the other day, oh, well, not the other day, for Christmas, I actually had a Google album because I made for my wife, like a legit photo book.
Right.
And it's been a complaint from mine for a while. Like, look, we have all these photos, but they're all on our phones. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just go look at something. So I'm always the photographer when we do anything. My wife can't be bothered to take pictures. She's just not. She's just not. Doesn't have the awareness.
Right.
She's too busy in the moment. And I'm like, oh, let me take a picture of this. Let me take a picture of that. And so I have all these albums on my phone, but I don't have any like tangible, oh, let's put this out on the dining room table or just sit around and look at it sometime.
Yeah.
I still like having a photo book or a photo album. So I had one made with like 100 photos from this last year that I took from like our different trips and things that we did. And I gave it to her as one of her Christmas presents. So she really liked that.
Yeah. We used to do a thing. We stopped doing it. I mean, when our daughter was really young, each year we would take like 12 photos of that we'd taken of her over the course of the year, and we'd do calendars for my mom and my wife's parents.
Hmm.
So like, and we'd have one for ourselves. Um, and that's really the closest that we've come to really printing out any photos over a long period of time. And I think that one thing that AI is really gonna help with, and it's already sort of helping, but I know that most of my like digital photo like dump is just
Collection.
like all of these like unrelated photos, and now I have thousands of them. So it's like the task of going back through thousands of photos and picking the ones that like Google Photos does a pretty good job of saying like, hey, these maybe you want to like
This
archive them.
happened. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's like making albums and being able to go back and have more of that artifacty kind of experience is something that, I mean, maybe I'm sure that there are plenty of people who like religiously keep their photos separated into different albums of different experiences. I just don't do that.
I too. I have one that says photos and one that has selfies. But it automatically does that for me on the iPhone, so I didn't really do anything. But I get that. It's just I think the culture has changed a lot. I mean, whenever I was a kid, every year we would go, whether it was J.C. Penney, Olin Mills,
Yeah.
Kmart, and
Uh-huh.
we would dress up and we would get our family photo made, and then that would go out as like Christmas cards. Like every year, usually twice a year, we would
Yeah.
go,
You
and my mom
go
would buy us all
Easter time.
matching pastel outfits. Yeah, and
Yep.
we would take our photos, and it would be a torturous day that everybody hated. And then
Yep.
later on, the photos would show up and say, "Oh, look at these cool photos,"
Yeah.
and then
Yeah. Well, and we got, and the school photo was kind of like another similar kind of experience where you had the school photo day, and you knew that this is what was going to be in the yearbook, and this is like, all that kind of stuff. And so it was a big deal. But now I now the school photo is like for the ID, and
yeah,
like, and it's just different. But I think for people who are younger than 30, probably, who never had that go to the Sears Portrait Studio or Olin Mills or
Man, that was a
JC
hateful experience.
JC Penney's or whatever. People who didn't like have those again like appointments for documentation of the family at that moment in time, you know, either whether it was in your Easter outfit or you were getting pictures for Christmas cards or whatever it was. But yeah, it was a thing. You went probably twice a year plus your school picture, and that
Yeah,
was your
imagine.
documentation.
So I come from a family of 9. I have 8
Yeah,
siblings. And this is not, there's no twins, all the same parents. This isn't like I'm 4 stepbrothers with this dad. No, there are 9
right.
of us.
Yeah,
And imagine trying to take 9 children to J.C. Penney or Olin Mills to go through the
yeah,
process of those family pictures. It was horrendous.
yeah. I mean, it was bad enough between me and my brother. Because I would always like torture him during during the process of taking the photos when I was younger. But you know, it's like I don't know. So when it comes to smartphones, I guess how we got here is to say your smartphone is like camera does not really matter all that much. If you're a photo enthusiast, if you're somebody who wants to stretch your camera out and do different kinds of things, then each camera offers you like something different, right?
Hmm.
And you know, Samsung's got 100 times zoom, and the iPhone's got cinematic mode, and you know, like so each one has its own different thing, and that's cool.
And most of them have their pro modes where you can take over and do your
Yeah.
manual exposure controls if you think that you can do better than the auto shutter button.
Well, I mean, you can like on the iPhone now. I shoot my photos in RAW, although I have never edited a RAW photo in my life. But I do notice that when I do shoot in RAW, the iPhone will like kind of take that raw photo and do something to it, like
Mhm.
just balance things out in a way that I hadn't noticed it doing it before.
I don't know. It
And
could be doing something. I don't shoot in RAW, so I mean, I don't really have any experience with that. They look fine when I press the shutter button the first time. I don't really
yeah,
mess with a lot. Like the only time I ever mess with anything, and probably is whenever I shoot with my Sony, because I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try and get the best picture possible, and I'm messing with all sorts of things that are in there.
right,
But for most cameras, like an iPhone or a Google Pixel phone, I'm not shooting in RAW. I'm just tapping the button.
yeah. I think 90+% of everybody who uses a smartphone camera is a point and shoot person, right?
And that's
You just
okay.
yeah, yeah, and so I think that between the argument that tech enthusiasts have about smartphone cameras is kind of pointless. It's you know you're like arguing into the
The
void
void. Yeah.
because because most of the people who are going to use these devices aren't going to care whatsoever. And if you
No.
go back and look at the photo that you took in 2008 and you look at the photo that you took in 2024, you're going to be like, "Wow, overall quality really good now." You
Yeah.
know? But even those 2007, 2008 photos, like it's still like a thing, you know, it still matters. So I think that, I think that it's all overblown. I think that, you know, I've been trying to think of other than being frustrated by having to, I ultimately reset my phone and now I have to like reset it up. Um,
Hmm.
Other than that, like annoyance factor, I don't know what I have to say about the S24 Ultra other than like it's really good, and I like the flat screen. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't.
people do like the flat screen. Hey, it's 7 years of support. It has the brighter screen now. No more 8 gig of RAM model. 256 gigabytes of baseline storage, which we had last year, but still is nice.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I mean,
there are some things. I mean, but yeah, I mean, largely as we approach these new upgrades, like next year's phone, newsflash is probably going to be 90% similar.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, how many times as a reviewer of phones can you say from one iteration to the next, like, well, if you have last year's phone, you don't need this year's phone, but Samsung's giving you a pretty good deal, so what the heck?
Why
You
not?
know?
Yeah, that's pretty much the mantra with Samsung is like, hey, pre-order it because they're going to give you like up to $750 off. They're going to give you a free double the storage upgrade, free double the RAM. You're going to get Samsung Care for half off. They're going to give you $200 worth of freebies.
Yeah,
Go get yourself a watch and a charger. So it's one of those things where they give you just enough where it's like, yeah, I could upgrade $300, no big deal.
yeah,
But is it ever necessary? Largely, no.
yeah. I think it's, the only time you could argue that it's necessary is like when it's no longer supported, and by the time the phone is no longer supported, it's probably like a little long in the tooth for the battery, et cetera, et cetera. So you can make the argument,
Yeah.
but
General
that,
rule of thumb is upgrade every 3 years whenever your carrier, phone that you're paying for is paid off, and then just get another one.
well, we just got a notification. We got a text from Verizon the other night. So my wife has the iPhone 14 Pro Max that I reviewed last year,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Hey, we'll pay off the rest of your device if you come in and upgrade to this phone." And it's just like,
Oh, okay.
but
Well, it's funny 'cause
she,
my wife doesn't care. So
yeah, my wife
my
doesn't
wife
care
has
either.
she has the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and I'm like, "Hey, honey, I'll go get you the 15 Pro Max." She's like, "Why? I'm perfectly happy with this one."
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
"I wish I lived in your world."
and that's my wife doesn't really care either. And the thing is, like with an iPhone, my general experience has been switching from one Apple device to another Apple device is generally almost seamless to the point where you don't really notice that you're using another device, right?
Yeah.
And so like there's no more friction. It's a little bit more friction when you're doing an Android phone, but still like
They
it's
take out
so
all
much
most
better
of the
than
pain
it used to
points.
be. Yeah.
Well, it sets it up to where, like, as long as you back it up before you set it up, effectively you pick up the new iPhone, and it's the same experience with all the data and information that you had 5 minutes prior, whenever you
Yeah.
were on your old phone. It's pretty crazy, and
Yeah.
I really do appreciate that. That's one of the things that Apple does so well.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with Macs, although, with Macs you can sometimes, like if you get a new computer that has different hardware, sometimes like the things will act funky. People have arguments about this as well, but that's an argument for another day. We have hit our hour mark
Man,
and gone over it by 7 minutes. But I know you got to jump and go do fatherly things. I too have to do family responsibility things. So we'll end here
sounds
because
like a good place to stop.
yeah, but do check out Adam's channel. I know he's got tons of phone videos coming up and other things. I'm obviously going to have Vision Pro things coming next week, and I'm also going to be distilling my thoughts on the S24 Ultra as well as the OnePlus 12.
Yes,
So do check that out. Hit that subscribe button, like, share with your friends. Come back to see us again. Painfully Honest Tech Podcast. We are now settled on Saturday for our release date. So mark your calendar
you're
accordingly.
drinking your coffee while your kids are playing soccer. You can watch the podcast.
That's right. That's right. So once again, thanks so much for being here. My name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. The Painfully Honest Tech. We've got Adam from the Tech Odyssey. Until the next time, people, we are out.
Peace.